right. Good. All right. All right. Welcome to Trap No More podcast. We appreciate you logging in, tapping on today. It's a great honor to have you guys viewing us today. We have a special guest with us here tonight. The beautiful, lovely Miss Maryann Garcia. So before we get into her testimony, we're just gonna open up to our you guys have been asking me about this song. Let me tell you, this is my boy Anthony Salas and my cousin Zachary. He's the one that put the beat together. So this is just the first part. I got another part coming out soon.
Yeah. Stop your trap and anger and frustration. 5 steps are a minimal communication. Reach out, get help. Give it a try, or stay high and guilty by association. Ain't gonna change, remain the same. Do you expect different results? You're gonna same. If you cruise control the same lane, be sober, be vigilant, the demons, they gang bang. Get up, get out, get back to joy. Step 1, don't keep it a secret, get the how, my boy.
All right. I am so excited to have you here. I don't think you know how excited I am to have you here. For reals, because you have a heck of an amazing story with a lot of twists and turns, a lot of hurts and tears, but a lot of rejoicing, a lot of celebration. And I mean, I couldn't even express it if I tried to express it in detail. That's why I had to bring you in to share it with, our subscribers, with the world, because I believe your story, you know, offers a whole lot of hope to some hurting mothers, you know what I mean? Some young women that are barely starting life. And I believe your story will be able to help them see some things in a different perspective. And, maybe even your story is like a warning to some people, not to get caught up in certain things that I'm sure you'll elaborate on. So I'm just going to let you share your story. I'm going to try to step away. I may ask questions here and there just to get you going, and just relax. It's just us. It's just us. All right. So, you know, why don't you just go back and tell us where you come from, what life was like in your early years within the home, your early school year, and then we'll ask some more as you go along. So,
Okay. I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored to be here. And um, so I grew up in the city of Pico Rivera,
okay.
and I I'm so nervous. I um I had a great childhood. I grew up in the city. I was involved. I have my mom and my dad. My parents were married for over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
They were high school sweethearts.
Hmm.
I have a younger sister, and she is 5 years younger than me. So it's just me and my sisters. I had no brothers. And as a young girl, I was involved in a lot of like drill team, cheerleading. I did tap dance, jazz. I was a baton twirler. I was in like completely on like a great route. Two hardworking parents. My parents worked hard all of their lives. Um, and I have like great childhood memories. I had a really good childhood. Um, I don't know. That's just
Elaborate. What was so great about your childhood? I mean, tell us some of the fun things about growing up in Pico Rivera in the Garcia home.
okay. So there was a lot of good. I think the most part is just like my parents were just like average, we on the weekends we'd go hang out with our friends. My dad was like a baseball coach. My mom was never my dad was the one that was like involved in like that life, where I was exposed to the life at. But growing up as a little girl, my dad just worked hard and he took us on vacations and we went camping and we went to SeaWorld and
Mhm.
I always had like I got to bring my best friends with me and my dad was like a very strict dad, a very strict dad. Me being his oldest, I feel like I got it was my dad was hard on me. I have a younger sister, like I said, 5 years younger than I feel like she kinda got away with stuff as time went on, but, it was just, like, drill team and fun and family parties and, good stuff, um, good I just love the camping, like, I don't know, it was just, like, an average growing up childhood, like, everything was good. My
Mhm.
parents, my dad would drink and my mom they would have drinks, but my dad was the one that was a little bit, would get a little bit like, started he's the one that like kinda hung out with in the neighborhood and, but we had this that was like kinda later on in life when I understood what the
Mhm.
neighborhood was.
Mhm.
But, growing up was good. I have so many good memories. My
Yeah.
parents showing up to my, I'd be on the drill team, I'm gonna mention, I don't know, a lot of people, but, like, Pico Donnas, like, that was a big deal. I was, like, a Donna from the time I was little to the time I was a junior trainer and even coached. So, my whole family, we'd all be at the park and, barbecues after football games and baseball games, and my dad served, youth football my dad served youth football for, like, 32 years.
Okay.
He got trophies from the city, awards from the city for his faithfulness to the city. So we had growing up in Pico was like it was so much fun. Like what growing up, it was like great. It was wonderful.
Okay. Did you experience any sort of tragedies at a young age? I mean, any hardships that you can remember? Was there ever a time that your dad lost his job or your mom and you guys really struggled? Or was there any real fighting? Because you said your mom and dad would drink.
Mhm.
I don't know the severity of that, but did it ever conflict with any domestic issues within the home?
There were times when my parents would it's so weird, drink my dad would drink and maybe there'd be a crazy fight. I've always been the protector,
Hmm.
like, that's kind of my role as a in the daughter role that I played, I guess you could say, but I remember, I have, my dad's side of the family, he had a bunch of brothers and sisters, 11 of them,
Hmm.
and, I just remember that my uncles were like, one of my uncles is a black belt in,
Hmm.
in kickboxing, and, one thing I remember growing up is that I had, like we'd have family parties, and the family parties sometimes would lead to, like, craziness, you know? So, there are always, my side sometimes on my dad's side of the family, with so many brothers and sisters, like, somebody would always be mad at each other,
Hmm.
like, somebody would always stop talking to each other or whatever, but, um, like, growing up, I always say this, it's like we would prepare for birthday parties, or celebrations, and it was always like, the piñata and the decorations and the cake, and then there was always, like, a keg of beer,
Hmm.
and, for the most part, most of my family is, just normal, have a drink, Saturday or Sunday and go about their business, but I did have those crazy aunts and uncles on both sides, and even my dad would at times, um get out of hand and yeah, my dad was really strict with me.
Hmm.
So, I had a couple times that I would get, like, my butt whooped.
Hmm.
I'd get it was never crazy, like, I never, like, got beat down or it was never, like, what you consider domestic violence, I guess, or
What were some of the causes for him to whip you? I
mm,
mean, was it like you talking back? Was it you being disrespectful? You not doing what he told you to do? Or
first time one of the first ones that I remember is, I was in middle school, I guess.
mhm,
And we walked home, Skateland was a big deal growing up, and you would go to Skateland, and they would have these things called all-night skates. So, they would literally like, people would pay and you'd skate all night. So, but my dad was super strict and he would
Mhm.
never let me do that.
Mhm.
But he did let us go for a while. So we went one time and there was some kids there that we really didn't get along with or we were just like having beef with.
Yeah.
And this is before gang stuff. This is just
Mhm.
like little kid growing up stuff. And so we decided to walk home.
Yeah.
So Skateland's in Whittier, and it was on a Saturday night. My parents were at a party in Pico, and the Pico Rivera, like the Dons were having a football party, and all the parents were there. But this is before cell phones. This is
Mhm.
before that you can. I don't even know pagers were there, to be honest with you. So we decided to walk home,
Mhm.
and so for whatever reason, um, my dad they went looking for us, I guess, to pick us up and so for hours, they couldn't find us. But it was a group of us and we walked home. So when I got to my friend's house, I got in trouble. My dad whipped me.
Mm.
Yeah, it was bad.
Okay. All right.
And then I started later on in life, like, when he would get really upset. Like when I started running away from home. That was like later on.
Okay. So how did you do like throughout your elementary years? Were you real good in school? I mean, were you consider yourself like somebody that was advanced or just like average or
No,
struggles?
I was actually considered back in the days, it was considered, MGM, which one day my parents get a letter from the school saying that, um, I was what they considered a mentally gifted minor, and I'm laughing because my mom thought that something was wrong with me, like, "What is wrong with her? Is something wrong?" Like. But it was advanced classes.
Oh, okay.
Very smart. Um, I started, going to a program at the time. I would get picked up once a week, and we'd go to the high school, Rancho High School, and, yeah, I was considered very smart. I had honors English and honors science when I was in middle school, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice. So during them times of junior high school, um, did you find yourself going down a different path than or you were still good at that time, still cheerleading, everything was cool?
Yes, I was, a major at middle school. Um, my grades weren't doing I wasn't doing so good grade-wise in middle school. There was a time when I started, I found a group of kids, like, they were starting to I guess you could say, yeah, middle school was kinda like where, I started hanging out with, I had a bunch of girlfriends. Most of them were cheerleaders, though, so they
Okay.
were doing good, right? They had the grades, and I had just, like, missed that. I missed being able to try out for sure because of my grades. So, there was a group of people that hung out that, like there was, like, the cheerleaders and then, like, the non-cheerleaders.
Mhm.
And it was kind of around that time that I started moving towards, um, not hanging out with the good kids. I
Okay.
started kinda, like, ditching parties. I remember a ditching party in middle school that, like oh my goodness, I got in so much trouble. I feel like nowadays, compared to now, it was just, like, good fun. I know ditching isn't, like, good fun, but it was, like we were still good kids, man, but that is when the drinking kinda found its way. Um, we used to have a I went to a middle school in Pico Rivera called Meller, and, we had a vice principal that used to drive around in a Jeep because the middle school is connected
Mhm.
to the park,
Mhm.
Smith Park, and so he would if he saw anybody out in like, sitting on the benches and stuff, he
Yeah.
would, jump in his Jeep, and so one time we went and we were ditching, which was really dumb now that I think about it, right down the street from the school, we were, like, at a ditching party, and this was, like, 30, 40 people, and here comes that Jeep. That was probably the first time that I ever scaled the walls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were really gone or like, "The principal, we're gone."
Oh, really so much, my most concern wasn't the principal, it was my dad.
Oh,
Like,
him telling your dad.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So did you get in trouble during that time
yeah.
with dad a lot more?
Started getting in trouble, yeah, started getting into fights at school, um
Over what? Just jealousy, people hating on you, or just what was going on?
That
What
was
was causing
happening. That started to happen in middle school.
what was causing the fighting though?
I was being a bully.
You were being the
Yeah, I
bully.
started on this path that just like, when I was thinking about it just recently, I just started like I was at that point thought I was the cool kid and hanging out with this group of kids that were all like, they were smoking weed and stealing vodka bottles from the store across the street
Mhm.
from the school. And I was kind of like right in the middle, like, these were my friends and these were my other friends, and there'd be days that I really like in my heart of hearts, I tell people this all the time, like in my heart of hearts, like I wanted to be and like get in there and get my grades up and start doing better. But that pull, like I started to feel that pull and that life started to become like very attracted to me. I
Mhm.
remember there was a girl that was let's see, I had to be like 7th grade. She was a ninth grader because back in the day, that was middle school, junior high.
Mm, mhm.
And she was like one of the craziest, even when I think about it to this day. um, she had her Levi's creased and she had hush puppies on
Oh,
and
she was that gangster
yeah,
girl.
a long jean jacket, a long
Mhm.
one. And she had her makeup all, perfect. And I was like, that was attractive to me. And some people ask, like, they're like, when did this all start? But I remember like looking at her like that girl's bad, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
that
it
was the starting process. Found you in some hush puppies a couple days later.
no, I couldn't. That was the thing. Like my dad was on it, my dad. One of the things that I like to mention is it's like generational curses.
Mhm.
Like my grandpa was from a neighborhood and my dad was from a neighborhood. And I say that almost like I wanna kinda give a disclosure, like,
Mhm.
because no disrespect to my family and to my grandpa, of course, the memory of my grandpa or my dad, but it wasn't like it is today.
Mhm.
Gangs weren't it was like, this is, the Pachuco days,
Mhm.
like, Zoot Suit, like, when the big fight about the Zoot Suiters and the sailors, how that
Mhm.
broke out in history, how that goes, like, and then they came and they swooped up all the Pachucos, right? My
Mhm.
grandfather was arrested for that. They were thrown in jail because they were just taking everybody in. So, like, there's a history of that lifestyle. Um, so sometimes when I think about it, like, I was going down this path, like, I was like, you know what I mean? Like, I had a teacher at one point come to me and say, like, "We want you to run for Miss Pico Rivera and represent the school," and I remember at by that point, that this is already high school now.
Mhm.
Um, I already had my eyes on this other life. Like, I was
Mm.
already, like, drinking on the weekends, and I was still going to school because my dad was so strict that I, like, had to keep up my schooling and stuff like that. But that pull was already there, and I truly believe, like, generational curses,
Mhm.
now that I have a different life today. I just know that those curses, like, that life, like, it was almost like trapped. That's why when I heard the name of your podcast, it blew me away because I feel like there were traps being set by the enemy and early. I'm sure those they were set even earlier, but yeah, so
Wow. So okay.
middle school
So
was
I get,
crazy.
hearing your story, I'm thinking of these two sisters that used to live in my neighborhood, and it's so funny though because just hearing you out just the little bit that I've heard so far. These two girls, Marianne, they used to come to the bus stop with, like, no makeup on. They would be dressed so nice and neat and everything. But at the bus stop, it was like they were Superman going into the telephone booth and coming out different
Right.
because that's how they were. They would put on their makeup right there, change like change their shirts and everything, and have that crazy look. And they would do this every day. And when they came home, they would go back, wipe everything off before they got home,
They had a dad like me.
and it was crazy though, you know what I mean? I mean, I ended up getting buzzed a little bit, you know, I didn't get to see the outcome of what they turned out to be, but I was
Mhm.
like, them girls were crazy. Like, I think about it now, like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's a
a
lot of work. So
lot
I'm
of work.
hearing you like trying to save face with dad when you're at home,
Mm,
but that trap as you identified it, it was just right there and it was pulling on your
yeah,
life. And
yep.
so continue though, you know, how what was the progression of that, you know?
So, you know, middle school, I wasn't even I always have had this, like, kind of favor, and so I started messing up, my grades started to drop a little bit, and so I technically wasn't supposed to get my certificate and walk, like, but I was so well liked by my teachers, and, I had, like, my honor teachers, and for whatever reason, like, they still let me walk, right? And, to get my graduating, like, my promotion, that's what they call it, right? In middle school. And so, I walk, I get my promotion, I don't even remember if it's not because it's not credits in middle school yet, so but I just remember that, like, I barely skated by, like, in middle school, you know? Um, and my dad and mom bought me, like, this beautiful dress, and, and I was able to do that walk, but I had a boyfriend, my first boyfriend, and, I was just already starting to, like, completely be distracted, you know? Um, high school was the next thing coming up, and, like, all my life growing up, it being part of cheerleading, like, I couldn't wait to go to school, like, in back of my mind, I used to think, like, El Rancho cheerleaders were, like, like, top of the line. They used to have, like, I don't even know how it is now, but they would have, like, song leaders and yell leaders, and, they were good, like, I just remember that was, like, part of the things that I wanted to do was, get to El Rancho and be a cheerleader, and by the time high school came, I was already drinking. I was definitely drinking, no cocaine yet, nothing, no drugs yet, but, um, I didn't go to Rancho because at that time, it was a lot of drama. There was always, like there's a lot of hating. The girls were, you know, um it was one of the things I write. I have part of my story in a book, I'll talk about that later, but, in that book, I talk about how, you know, girls were so mean. I was real innocent, like, I was raised I don't know, man, I felt like I was really pure-hearted, and, there was girls that just, like, hated you for no reason, and I didn't understand that in the beginning,
Mhm.
and girls that were, like, accusing me of, like, doing things that I was still literally, like, a pure young woman, and, the girls are, like, accusing me of, like, I was with their boyfriends, like, this is middle school, this is, like, young, right? I was like it was hard, it was like, I took that I felt like I took that it was like a big wound, like, where girls didn't like me, like, I didn't even understand it. Girls wanted to beat me up, I didn't even understand it, and I have no brothers, right? It was just
Mhm.
me, I'm the oldest daughter. So, I
And it's
felt
during this time that you were fighting a lot, right? It was during this
I
time?
was starting to my freshman year, I'm
Mhm.
like, we run the school, we're ninth graders, and
Mhm.
we're like, if there's people that we don't like, we're picking on them.
Yeah.
There was fights, there was a couple of fights, um I remember, like, being in class, and there was a girl we didn't like and, like, throwing stuff at her head, like, from the back of her head, like, throwing things at
Mm.
her, right? And being really mean. That's ninth grade, right?
Mhm.
But after ninth grade or around ninth grade is just, like, when I had to start learning how to defend myself, like, literally. And then I have a dad that comes from, you know my dad later on in life, I found out my dad was, like, a big fighter.
Mhm.
And so my dad would say things like, you know If you get if you get beat up, you're gonna get it when you get home. Like,
Mhm.
if you get in a fight and you get, your butt whooped, like, you're gonna get it when you get home?
Mhm.
And, I didn't know, it wasn't like I was a boy. It's not like he taught me how to fight?
Yeah.
So, I feel like it's really hard, um, being a girl, especially when you decide to run the streets,
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of choices. Like
Yeah.
you better learn quick,
Yeah.
you know?
So, Marianne, if you don't mind me asking, you're speaking a lot about your dad, but what about your mom? Well, what was your mom's influence, during all this time? Was she like, "This is my baby girl," and, she's not a fighter, how like, what was her role in your life at this age, because it sounds like it was a critical age of, like, you're a good girl, you were, in the cheerleading and all this stuff, and then you're in high school, now you got these haters, now you're fighting, now you're drinking. What if you don't mind me asking, what was your mom's influence?
So my mom, I don't I mean, my mom is like but my mom did like everything for us. Like my mom like spoiled us rotten in a way, like I always say that like growing up for 2 Mexican girls, like, we didn't have to, like, get in the kitchen and cook, and my mom, like, we got away with, like, doing the dishes, setting the table, throwing the trash. Just me and my sister.
Mhm,
I'm the oldest, and, my mom worked, full time. Both of my parents did, so, we were very close to my mom's side of the family, so
mhm,
my mom would drop me off in the morning at my grandma's, right by Smith Park, and then my grandma would take me to the school. This was when I was in elementary. Then as I go to middle school, then my mom's dropping me off and I'm walking to middle school now. Um, and my mom is an amazing woman. My mom is like a jack of all trades woman. Like she cut our hair. She we lived in an apartment our whole life. But my mom had like a gift of making that apartment beautiful. Like, she knew how to decorate, and, like, if you gave my mom $100, like, she would do a million things with it. It's crazy, like, she's very resourceful, you know?
mhm,
Um, the best baker. My mom could cook.
mhm.
My mom's a great was a great baker, and a good wife, and a great mom, you know?
Was she also a part of the disciplinary of your life? Because I hear your dad being strict. He was the one that put the whipping when needed. But how was mom in that area?
Um She would be like, "You're in trouble, like, I'm gonna tell your dad," right? You know, um, my mom didn't, my mom didn't hit us.
Mhm,
My mom, she would get mad, she would yell at us, she would punish us, but, like, if we were really in trouble, then I'm calling your dad, like, "Your dad. When we get in the house, your dad. I'm telling your dad," you know? But, she participated. My mom was like a great mom. I can't even explain it. It was just like very chill, very mellow. She didn't, she was like, I don't know if you would say a goody
mhm.
two shoes, but my mom was like, she wasn't a little like chola. She wasn't like, she didn't get into that.
Okay.
Back in the days, my parents growing up, there was like socias. They called them socias, I guess. And then there was, these the guys my dad's like the gangsters or whatever, I don't even know what they called them, but there was, like my mom wasn't involved, like, my dad how my mom and dad met, like, that's crazy. I don't even
Mhm.
they
The
talk about it.
opposite attracts?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah,
what that was?
yeah, and so but see, remember I told you my mom's dad is the one that was from a neighborhood,
Mhm.
right? So, my grandpa was
So
like
your mom knew what time it
mhm.
was, but she just chose to go, like, not participate in that.
Right, and mind you, her younger brother, um, he's going to juvenile hall. My uncle, that's my, one of my favorite uncles. He's like, um, he got involved with everything. He was
Mhm,
in from neighborhood, he's going to camp. Back in the day, we were at every camp. We would go visit my uncle at different camps,
mhm,
you know? This is my mom's baby brother. So, yeah, she definitely knew what time it was.
mhm,
And I remember that, like, I remember her telling me, like, the day my dad came over for the first time to meet my mom and my grandma and grandpa, like, she was so freaked out because like, he had these baggy pants on and I don't know, maybe my grandparents, like, they already knew, they were aware, they came from that life themselves,
mhm,
so but I'm telling you, it was kinda, like, different then, you know?
mhm.
So, yeah, but my
Yeah.
mom was my mom was there. I'm not gonna say I was I wasn't afraid of my mom. I was really that kid that tried for so long, like, to please my mom, you know? I wanted to make my mom proud of me, and, sorry, getting emotional. I lost my
Mhm.
mom 2 years ago to COVID. So, I just remember, always wanting to make my parents proud, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, and then, my mom was afraid of my dad. Like, my dad had this really crazy temper. So, like, that time that I told you that I walked home from Skateland,
Mm.
you know, my dad popped me, and, my mom was pissed, right? My mom was so mad, and she left, and she went to go live at my grandma's for, like, a
Mhm.
few weeks. She left my dad, and she went to go live with my mom was like my mom was a strong woman, you know, don't get me wrong, but she, um she had her back. Like, my mom always had my back. My mom was always cheering for me. You know, there was times that I feel like I could have done one wrong thing and 10 right things, and, like, she would bring up that one wrong thing, you know?
Mhm.
That's kinda like the thing that I always talk about when I say, like, some of the things that I wish, you know, maybe would have been different.
Mhm.
Mhm. Was, I'd always get that one thing, like, thrown, in my face. So but I had great parents.
It
They did
sounds
the
like
best
it.
they could, you know?
Yeah. Sounds like it. They were, I mean, hearing you out, it's resembling my mom and dad too. That's the way my mom was. I could do no wrong. And, when my dad would hit me, my mom would be right there. Okay, that's enough already.
Yeah, yeah.
He like, okay, you already told him, he
Right,
messed up, he gets it.
right.
But yeah, so, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your mom.
Thank
I
you.
know it's never easy. Okay. So high school, the high school years, I'm assuming them were when things were really kicking off now.
Yeah. So, it's like I felt like before the drugs, it was, like, boy crazy stuff, you know? Like, um, you're I'm starting to get I'm drinking, like, the weekends we're going, like, to parties. What happened was, I kinda lost I'm not gonna say the fear of my dad, but I just went on this tangent because one day, I'm we live next door. We live on a main street in an apartment, and next door to our apartment is a liquor store. So we would always go get change for my dad. My dad comes home from work, puts his pants on the back of his store, and there's like my dad always had a grip of change. So he would take his change out and put it on the dresser or whatever. But we had a liquor store next door, so I'd always go grab candy. We'd always go buy candy next door. So I go in my dad and mom's room, um, and I go to get some change out of my dad's pocket, and I there was no change on the dresser, so I go into my dad's pants to grab some change out, and I find like a seal, you know,
Mhm.
like a seal. I don't know if you ever did cocaine, but back in the good old days, they would make these little seals out of paper.
Mhm.
So I find the seal in my dad's pocket, right? And at this point, I believe I had already tried it or had dabbled in it, right? But so I find it and I take it. And so I remember like an hour or two later, like I don't know, I left out of the house, and when I come home, like my mom's and my dad are like, my dad's pissed. He's like yelling, and my mom's yelling at us, "Did you get anything from your dad's pockets? You know, in your dad's pants and stuff?" Um, and I was like, "No, you know, no, I didn't. No." Um, and so I don't know. All I know is that like that day finding that in my dad's pants, it was like something clicked in the back of my mind. Like I thought, like what is he doing? Like, you know, we grew up around in high school. Um, we grew up it was really kind of a crucial point because I'm gonna say that from the very gate, I never got jumped into the neighborhood. Like, I married somebody from the neighborhood, my sister got jumped into the neighborhood, you know? My dad was from that neighborhood, and so, um, I just know that something clicked that day, and it was like, I don't know if I was mad at him or, like, kind of like disappointed or whatever you wanna call it, but I kinda felt like, "How can you tell me to do right if you're doing wrong?" You know? Like, you want me to do this, that, and the other, you know? And he's always honest about, like, our grades and doing staying on that right road, like, as I'm starting to get into high school, like, I can't paint my eyebrows, like, I can't wear eyelashes, I can't dye my hair, I can't wear certain clothes. Like, back in the day, like, kinda the cholas, like, they would wear, we had these, like, tank tops,
Mhm.
and they would have, like, the decals, like, that you would print on 'em,
Mhm.
um, and, like, those long jackets I'm telling you about, that Levi jacket,
Mhm.
hush puppies, like, certain shoes, right? My dad wouldn't let us I could not wear anything like that.
Mhm.
So, my dad was really strict, and I just remember that, like, I felt like something clicked during that moment, and, um, and I kinda got that "I don't care" attitude anymore, you know? I was still living at home, obviously, so I'd still go, I obviously was still, like, respectful to my dad, but I think that's what as I started to move towards, like, partying and drinking, you know? I met a boy in high school, I was really crazy about him. I feel like, uh, I was by this time, I'm already messing up because I had already went to I didn't go to Rancho, I went to Pioneer High School for 2 years. I left that party crowd because I kinda thought, like, if I leave these people,
Mhm.
I might do better over here,
Yeah.
and I went over here, and I found the crazy people over there, you know? And so, we're going to parties, backyard parties on the weekends and stuff, and I meet this guy, and one day we go out and, um we go to a party, it's, like, at a warehouse, like, in a warehouse, and so we pull up, we go get something to drink, and he's like, "Hey, you wanna try some of this?" And he pulls out, like, a cassette tape, and he's, like, doing something on this thing, and I was like, "What is that?" "Cocaine." And, I'm like that, "Alright," kind of person, you know? I'm already I'm drinking on the weekends, and trying cocaine, like, I don't know why it didn't, like I don't know, it didn't scare me, like, I was, like it's kinda already in that party mode in my head, like, "Okay." And so, I tried that. I actually first time I go to do it, I I go he hands me, like, a straw, and I blow it all over the place, like, it goes all
Uh,
over. And, I don't know, I just remember that that was, like, the beginning of the end for me, like what cocaine did for me was allow me to drink longer, and I'm like that's my thing, like, I wound up turning out to be like an alcoholic, drinking was my thing. Like, no matter where I went, I'd be driving as I started to get older, I'm driving, I have a car, and I would have, like if it was, I would have, like, a Gatorade bottle, and I would put Four Loko in it.
mhm.
So that's red, right? It would be red, so it looked like it was Gatorade, and I would be like I would drive and drink, and, like, by this time, like, alcohol is, like, just really taking over. I'm
Mhm.
drinking all the time, and when I first started to do
And this was
cocaine
still when you were in high school?
Mhm,
Mhm.
yep.
Okay. So did
My
you end up
last
finishing high school?
No, so I don't finish high school. I wound up leaving I go to Pioneer for 2 years, um I wound up going back to Arancho Unified School District, and I go to what they call, Ruben Salazar, the continuation
Mhm.
school. So, I go there, and I'm trying to catch up on credits, and I'm really trying to be motivated into, like, I do wanna get my diploma, you know? So, I try that, and all my friends, there was just a lot of people there that I knew. I mean, you grow up in the city, so you know everybody. And, by this time, people are drinking, and there's ditching parties all the time. And I'm just doing that.
Mm,
And eventually, I get pregnant and have my
okay,
first son.
okay. And tell us about your first son.
So, hardest thing, I guess, the first time I ever heard my dad cry was the day that, I'm by this time, I'm running away. I'm running away, right before I'm getting pregnant. I'm running away, I'm going out with this guy, and I have a comadre, that her parents, like, were always like it was just her mom, the mom, and the mom's twin sister, and she was my best friend in the whole wide world, and we'd go there, and we'd always be able to, like, kinda party there, you know? The moms, they were at work all day, you know? And so we would go and to have ditching parties, and not always there, but other places too, and, I wound up getting pregnant, and, I go back home, and I know I'm pregnant, but I don't have the guts to tell my dad or mom
Mm,
yet. So I'm back at home and I'm just like sleeping all the time. And my mom's like, "What's wrong with you?" One day she came into the room. She's like, "What's wrong with you? That's all you're doing is sleeping. Like, gotta get up, like." Um, and I'm like, "I'm pregnant." And my mom's just like, she looked at me with like this look in her face, like broken.
mhm,
And she walked out of the room. And, I don't remember if my dad was already home or if he had to come home from work that day, but
mhm.
that day was the first time that I ever heard my dad cry, like a baby cry. Um, yeah, I was 18. I was 18 years old. And, nowadays, it seems like 18 is like you're old if you have a
Yeah.
but yeah, it was I mean, during this time, like, it was, I was
So
young.
let me ask you, why do you think your father cried? Was it like as far as, he was crying because, man, you're ruining your life, or you're not gonna be able to take care of this kid because you're an alcoholic? I'm assuming he already seen, the alcoholic side of you, or he didn't know that you were. Oh, okay.
It's still like,
So
I'm doing
what
this
were
on
you
the weekends. It's still
okay.
like weekends, maybe I come home and, that's why I'm telling you, I ran away a lot. I was living out away from home a lot, so it wasn't evident yet at
Mhm.
all.
So what were you feeling when he was crying? I mean, what do you think he was thinking? Did he ever share with you why he cried about that?
Um, my mom and dad are like I feel like they're like that last generation that, like, you got married and you had children um, and I had I didn't have anybody that I was, like, in a long-term relationship with, like
Mm,
this guy, I'm seeing him on the weekends, I'm seeing him, like, away from the house, like,
mhm,
um, it was nothing like, what my mom and dad have. I guess that's why he was crying. I disappointed him, you know? I was a young girl with nothing, no career, no nothing. He was probably crying because like, "I'm gonna have to support this guy." I don't know, but it was horrible. Um, and my dad had 2 girls, me and
mm,
my sister. My mom had a baby in between the 2 of us, a
mm,
little girl that she lost. So, but it would just wound up being, me and my sister, Stephanie, and, and, no boys. So, I'm pregnant. Um, right away, my parents are just, like, so so supportive, man.
mhm.
So loving.
So after that
So
moment
good
of
to me.
crying and
Yes.
they were like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?
Yes.
Let's."
And my dad wanted to meet dude, right? "I want you to come him you tell him that he needs to come over
Mhm.
to the house."
Did he have the
And
machete out?
he came he came over, and I don't know what their conversation went like, but I heard, later on, like, my dad must have said something to them like, "Are you gonna marry my daughter?" Whatever. And dude's like, "I don't wanna get married," like, "I don't wanna get married." So my dad wound up coming back in the room, and he was like, mind you, this is I already have the baby. He's like, "He's allowed to come in here and spend some time with you and Richie, and when he leaves here, he's never welcome back here again." And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, man, that didn't go well." My dad was still, like, in
It was
his
that tradition, like, "Hey, you're gonna
mm,
take it you're gonna man up and take care of my daughter, take care of this baby."
that's it, that's
Yeah,
it.
I can
Yeah,
relate, I can
yeah.
relate.
So, I had a wonderful pregnancy, my parents were so supportive, like, I went back to school, um, going to school and that's when they had like that teen parent program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at our in our Rancho Unified School District. So, I go and I do the teen parent program and stuff, and I'm doing I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Trying to get my life on track. I still don't graduate, but I gave birth to a little Tim Richard after my dad. My dad didn't have any children, so my dad comes to the hospital with a baseball glove and some balloons because that's our family. They're like sports, big time sports fans. So, yeah, my parents were there for my son. Thank God, because I went not shortly thereafter, giving birth. I went back into that scene and started. My son was probably about a month old, and I'm 18. My birthday's in February, and he's born in January. And in February, it's my birthday weekend, and excuse me, my girls want to go out. The friends that I'm hanging out with at the time, and they're like, "Hey, let's party, let's go have some drinks." And this is like kind of the codependent part, of my mom. They were like, "Yeah, we'll watch him." And so they watch him. They agreed to babysit him, and I feel like in my mind it was like I had the like it was like a okay to go ahead. Like my son was safe. My parents are elated like with this baby. They've never
Mhm.
had a boy. They are like spoiling him, rotten, like doing everything, helping me
Mhm.
with everything. And so when I want to go out, they say okay. I didn't even want to ask. I was afraid to ask. But my girlfriends are like, no, come on, at least just ask.
Mm.
I didn't even feel like they were going to tell me it was okay. The baby was about a month old.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that was a really beginning, of a really bad habit for
Mhm.
me. Yeah.
So you continue to take that opportunity because you knew your mom and dad were gonna watch him, so he's safe, go out and then that's when you started progressing in your addiction, I'm assuming.
Yep. Right back to that life.
Mhm.
Right back to the cocaine um, on the weekends.
And by this time, you're in your early 20s by this time?
I had just turned 19.
19. Okay.
I had just turned 19.
So
So,
you're still a young mom, you're still trying to figure out what path you wanna go down, and, you had this alcoholism thing that was starting to increase,
right.
and man, and if you don't mind me asking, did the baby's dad stay in the picture?
No.
He didn't, like, right away? Once your dad talked to him, he was like, I'm done, I'm gone."
You know what? It's a sad situation because like to this day, and I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but like to this day, this man's like still struggling in his life. I pray here for him all the time. Um, but um he went on and man, Pico, I don't know anything about Pico. Pico is just I don't I'm sure Puente was the same way, but hey, Pico was just like drama, man. There was so much drama and
I
now
think all Southern California is drama.
and now, dudes messing around with my now the girls that I was hanging out with, he's like messing around with them and oh yeah, it was just a lot. I feel like alcohol became like that remedy to like a lot of like broken heart stuff. Um, a lot of it.
It
That
does what it's supposed to do, numb you, numb a lot
right,
of them feelings and
right.
emotions. But
Yep.
what people don't know, it triggers some of them nasty emotions,
Mhm.
for some people, some people get angry behind it. What kind of alcoholic, behaviors followed you? I know for me, when
I
I
was
drank, I became more violent for
yep,
me.
yep.
That for me, I was more violent.
So at this time I'm hanging out with this girl. She's my comadre. Um, and shout out to Jeanette. We were so bad. We were like parties every weekend. By the time this is when there's like little crews and party crews, and we were like
Was this like early '80s?
yes,
Okay.
disco.
With
We
the
were like
mini
ladies of
trucks and all that
mischief.
stuff, the backyard
Yeah.
parties, all
Oh
that
yeah.
thing? Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah. All that.
Okay.
And we're at parties. We're like flyers. I remember, we go to a party and we're all excited
Because your
because
name's right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And the back of the flyer, it says, "Congratulations to Marianne on her baby boy," and
Oh.
stuff like that, like shout out or whatever. Like we were, I'm gonna tell you something. As from junior high on, it was like this popular. I was, really popular, and people like I, I always say this. I feel like the Pied Piper. It's like wherever I'm going, like I'm taking people with me. So like if I'm going down this road, like that we're it's like there's a bunch of us,
Mhm.
like I'm leading. People are following me, and we're going down this road. But my comadre, we were fighters. We were fighters. It was like we'd go to parties and let one person say something stupid, and it was just I don't know, man. And by this time, we're doing lines of cocaine and we're drinking, um, and it's not gang related at all right here. Like it's still like
Just partying, just
backyard
yeah.
parties. My hair, I should have sent you that picture. I had
Aquanet,
hair
the
like
the
yeah, I had hair out to here like Aquanet, Cha-Cha Net. Those are the best days, man. The 80s. Yeah.
Oh, I love the '80s.
Mhm. And
Okay.
so fighting a lot, disco, a lot of guys were boy crazy. We're dancing out. We go to I even at a Pioneer High School, I'm in a group of girls, like with a group of girls, and we would that's when people were pop locking
Mm,
and we're
break and all
dancing and
that,
break
yeah.
dancing, all that. Yeah. And so I'm a dancer, and so that was my thing. Like I was out there, we would go to parties, and if we weren't dancing, we were fighting.
So you're a young mom at this time, early '80s. Um, were you working? Were you going to adult school? Were you I mean, during that time, if you could remember, like, what were your plans? I mean, what were you doing besides partying? Was it like I mean, who was supporting you? Was your mom and dad still giving you money to go buy alcohol and, your cocaine and stuff? How were you what was your income?
So, this is part of what trapped, right? Want to know? I became a welfare mom
Okay.
right off the bat. And so that was the one of the maybe one day, people will start to talk about that, and, I wanna give, hope to anybody that's out there. That's one of the things that I never really talk about, but I literally became trapped
Mhm.
in that welfare system, that monthly check, you know, on the f back in the day, it was on the 1st and the 15th,
Mhm.
and, I became a welfare mom. And I was a welfare mom for a long time, and that welfare supported my drinking. I mean, of course, like, my parents were there, so they were, like, always buying stuff, but I would have to buy certain things, or I'd have to give my mom money for certain things, but I didn't have a hustle.
Mhm.
I had to get a job when it was like this was even before I had my son, like, I'm gonna go to prom, and my mom's like, "I think you should get a part-time job and help, pay for your dress and pay for stuff," you know? Um But no, when I got as soon as I got into, as soon as I had my son, um, that was that was it. Like, when I say trapped, you have no idea how much that word, like, resonates in my spirit. Um, I became trapped in welfare. I was a welfare mom.
Mhm.
I wasn't expected after that point, like, I don't feel like they put any pressure on me to, like,
Do
go
anything
get a
more,
job,
yeah.
like,
You
support your
learned how to
son.
function with that amount, plus you had your mom and dad for, like, the
Exactly.
necessity, so it's like, cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I had
and
I
there
lear
and you know what? You're not alone. There's so many people that are still stuck in that
Mhm.
mentality of just, like, government, dependent of the government. I know some people, it's needed to get them to the next level, but there are some people that, they do get trapped in it where they just relax in it as well, though, where it's like, "This is good enough for me."
I know. Welfare mom for a long time.
Okay, so let's I don't want nobody to think that, everything was just, you were addicted to everything. Cause I know, man, the second half of this story, man, tune in. Hold that restroom break. You can go get some dinner in a little bit, but you don't wanna miss this second half because the second half is why I brought her on here. So just stay tuned with us. So you're stuck, you're trapped, you're living this disco life, this aqua life. Um, you got your son, and um, you got your mom and dad that are right there, kind of enabling your addictive lifestyle to progress. Um, so when do you hit a hardship in all of that? Because eventually, I know you have to at some point hit that rock where it's like, dang, something needs to
Okay,
change.
so one of the reasons why I feel like, due to my daughter, losing my daughter and stuff was because Jojo,
Okay, hold on though. You're
let me tell you what happened. I never went to jail.
mhm,
I never got my kids taken away. Okay, so
mhm.
I meet another him, and we wound up. My baby's here. Shout out to my daughter Lulu
Shout
for
out,
coming to
shout out to
support.
Lulu. Shout out.
She's my supporter today. She's here with me. Thank you, Lulu. But
That's
I
cool.
start having. I meet her dad. I meet my kid's dad. My son. I have my one son from what I call my high school sweetheart, and then I wind up meeting a man that was in that whole lifestyle and
When you say lifestyle for our audience,
gang
what like
member.
oh, a gang member, okay.
Hmm.
And everything that comes with that.
And two things happen. I
Mhm.
meet him. He's from the neighborhood.
Mhm.
My little sister gets jumped into the neighborhood.
Okay. The one that's 5 years younger than you.
5 years younger than me,
Mhm.
and everything changes. I'm very protective over. Like I'm that fighter. I'm telling you, I am that person. But mind you, I have this style about me because I'm like dressed up. I'm always in heels. I'm not looking like, I don't,
Mhm.
I was never allowed to dress like, Levi's and, that
Mhm.
like cholas, I guess you
The
could say
Charlie
too.
Browns and all
None of
that
that.
stuff.
Never. That wasn't me. I
Mhm.
was always dressed up. Um, I felt like I almost had a double life for for a little while.
Mhm.
But my little sister gets jumped into the neighborhood, and I meet a him from the neighborhood, and my whole world changes completely. It is no longer like now my life is like guilt by association. So we
Mhm.
get to high school, and one of the things that starts happening is my dad's friends are all from the neighborhood. So
Mhm.
there's three families that we hang out with for the most part. We're always with every weekend.
Mhm.
Um, and they're all really gang related, right? So
Yeah.
they're all from the neighborhood. They're dads. Those are my dad's homeboys.
Mhm.
So as high school comes around, right? Not so much in the very beginning, but as time goes on, then people start identifying me as from that side of,
Assuming that
yeah,
yeah,
like I'm
your
from,
dad's from
what side.
there, your little sister's
Now
from
my sister gets
there.
jumped in and I
Mhm.
meet him, and now all we're doing is neighborhood back parties.
Yeah.
We're not going, it's not, like when we were disco days and everywhere, every
Yeah.
city going all over. It wasn't like that. Now it was just like we're in the
Hangout. Now it's like
neighborhood.
a hangout
Yeah,
now.
and we're
Now it's
and I know all these are my dad's homeboys, kids. So I know we all grew up together. Like in my mind, it's kind of what I like to say is like I didn't identify them as gang members. These are
yeah,
like
like
these
these
are
are
my
his
people.
family.
These are my
Yeah.
family. Like this is
It
not.
wasn't abnormal. It
No.
was like you're at that age now. This
Yeah.
is like the next phase of your age.
Yeah.
I get it.
What used to happen in the beginning was there would be some of the older guys from the neighborhood and they would always be
Mhm.
like, "Does your dad know where you're at?" Like if they would run into me, so does your dad know where you're at? One guy in particular, and everybody was scared of this guy. So like if he saw me like standing by some people or guys or
Mhm.
whatever, he'd be
Mhm.
like in his crazy voice, he'd be like, "Does your dad know where you're at?" You
You
know?
know who her dad
Yeah,
is, right? That's
exactly.
the homie,
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
better
So
take care of her.
yeah, they would not even. It wasn't. It would like he would go like, "Come here."
Mhm.
So, but now it's backyard parties. People are getting. My sister gets jumped into the neighborhood, and I have my little boy, and I have a friend, and we are. She gets a condo in Almani,
Mhm.
and she wants a roommate, and I have income, so we move out to Almani to a brand new condominium in Almani, and my sister gets jumped into the neighborhood. So what starts to happen is I start to pick up all the little homegirls, and at this time I would drink and I would do cocaine, but they're starting to dabble in, like, other things. They're, like, smoking frios and, you know, other things, and,
Mhm.
I don't want my little sister around that, you know? And we'd go to backyard parties, we'd be with everybody, all the homeboys, and then I would, like these families, moms, like,
Mhm.
their moms and their, family members, they trusted me, they know my dad, they know me, they think, like, I have my own place, like, I'm a good influence, so
Mm,
I would pick them all up, I would take them to my condo,
yeah.
and my motive was because they would babysit my son.
Mhm.
So I would take them to my house and buy them something to drink, and they would watch my son, and then I would take off and go party.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I was just that whole everything changed at that time for me. That was one of the I feel like it was a key point.
Mhm.
My little sister getting jumped in and
That
meeting
just
that
brought a
guy.
lot more attention to you in all the negative ways.
Yeah,
Because it's one thing for people to hate on you just because you were pretty and you were popular, you were the cheerleader, you know what I'm saying? You had the guys, but now there's like a neighborhood attached to you now, which is a whole different type of hating.
yep,
This is a lot more violence involved.
yep. Now we're going to ditching parties and went to a ditching party in Whittier one day and all of a sudden, people start yelling and just you hear boom, boom, shots being fired.
Mm,
So we're like, right, we like run to the backyard, jump over the fence, and there was a riverbed in the back, and so we're in the riverbed, and I still hear the bullets, and the bullets are kind of felt they sound like they're getting
getting
closer,
closer.
and there was a girl stuck on the other side of the fence. She couldn't jump the fence.
Mhm.
I don't know what I was thinking. I jump back over the fence and I throw her over and jump back over the fence back into the riverbed. And when I look down, I have blood on my hands. And I'm like thinking, like, like what happened? Well, the bullet went through her foot.
Mhm.
So as I was helping her go over,
Oh, she was leaking out on
the
you.
bullet went right through her foot.
Mhm.
And it was like, that was, it was
That close.
our rival
Mhm.
gang members. Yeah. So
Wow.
it was just starting to, like I feel like at that point during this specific time, um, we'd get hit up. People were like we'd be driving down the street in our own neighborhood, like, car pull up and
Mhm.
yell a rival gang, like, yell. That time in particular, I had my daughter in the car with me, the baby's my daughter by this time, now I have my daughter, she's my oldest daughter, she's in the car with me, and I'm with her dad, and,
And
by the
her dad's from the
grace
neighborhood, right?
yep,
Okay.
and by the grace of God, they don't have guns
Mm.
because they throw bottles at us and we take off, but, it kinda started to be, like, normal, you know?
Mhm.
You start to live your life like just you're watching, where you go and who you're with and
You're more on the defensive now, looking around and being more suspicious.
yeah.
And back then in, the 80s and stuff, certain people dress certain ways where you knew that,
Mhm.
gotta watch my back with this person right here.
Right.
Yeah. So okay. So you have your daughter now, you have your son. And your daughter and son, what was the age difference? What's
5 years.
5 years?
Mhm.
Okay. So your little daughter has a big brother. And I'm assuming your mom and dad took her just like she took the the son.
So, at this point, what happens is me and
In El
her
Monte, in the
dad, we
condo.
get our own place. I'm living
Okay.
in that was when I was just like that's when I before I meet him.
Okay.
We're in Oman. That's when I lived in Oman for a little while. We're going to these parties. That's when I meet him. Soon after I get pregnant and I give birth to my daughter, we move into our own place.
Mhm.
And um, my daughter, what happened was my parents kind of basically took over with my son, you know? So like I had my son, now I have this little girl, she's a baby, she's 5, he's 5 and she's newborn. And so now my parents are helping me all the time because a 5-year-old in our family is ready to start playing baseball. Like
That's
that's the
T-ball.
tradition.
That's the
Yeah.
T-ball years right
Yeah.
there.
So shout out to RBA. All my kids played RBA baseball, Rivera Baseball Association, and so my son's getting ready to play baseball. So my dad and mom just kind of like, you know, jump right in, and they're ready to help me with taking him to practice, and they get him enrolled and
Mhm.
sign him up, and they pay for everything. But at that time, I have this new baby, and so they just kind of basically take over, and they did that for most of his life.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like as my disease started to progress, now they're starting to notice, like, now I always have the homeboys all over my
Mhm.
house. My house was, like, always active. I always had gang members at my house, active gang members, around my kids, and, yeah, my parents just kinda, like, take over, and they raise my son. And because at this time I'm doing cocaine, like, I'm in the bathroom, if I'm getting high in my house, I'm in the bathroom and I'm using, like, he's sticking his fingers underneath the door like, "Mom, mom, like, what are you doing, mom? What are you doing?" So I'd have to, like, get
Hurry
up
up.
and get out of the bathroom. Yeah, and then I have this little girl, she's newborn in her
Mhm.
little carrier, so I feel like, and I say this a lot, and I love my son. We have a good relationship today, um I feel like he was an inconvenience to my getting high, and so when my parents stepped in to help, it's one of the biggest regrets. One of
Mhm.
my regrets, is that I just let them, raise him.
Mhm.
So
So now you have this baby. Okay, so tell us, how is it with this daughter?
messed up.
Mhm.
I'm like cocaine now by this time is like I stay clean for my daughter. Okay, I stay
During the
clean
pregnancy.
during the pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, she's the only of my children that I really like. I wanted to have a baby. Prior to this baby, there's a lot, Jojo. Before my daughter was born, I I was pregnant from her dad, and I lost a baby.
Mhm.
And what happened to me at that time was called what they call an abruption. And so I am like 4 months pregnant, and my sister, we're like still going out and stuff. I'm the designated driver because I
Mhm.
can't drink. But I have to stop to use the bathroom like you normally do when you're pregnant. And I go into my ex-mother-in-law's house. I went into her house, use the bathroom, and there's nothing but blood in the toilet.
Mm.
And so I'm rushed to the hospital, and I wind up losing that baby. I almost lost my life that day.
Oh
I had
wow.
to um I had to get 3 blood transfusions, and I for the lack of remembering right now, but I lost like a lot of blood, and at the time I was pregnant, so the doctors couldn't concentrate on me completely. They had to save me and the baby. So these doctors are rushing in, they're listening to me, my stomach, they're giving me blood. I knew I was in trouble if something was really wrong because my uncle, one of my dad's brothers, the one that I told you was a black belt in
Mhm.
kickboxing, he doesn't go to the hospital. Like,
Mhm.
he doesn't. And he shows up to see me. And I'm thinking, like, I'm dying, like to see him at the hospital it freaked me out. And um, I wind up losing the baby.
Mhm.
And as soon as the doctors come in and they say they don't hear a heartbeat anymore, now they are able to like concentrate. And that's when I get rushed into surgery, and they do blood transfusions and they remove the baby. And dude left me. My dad, by this time, my dad like is already like upset. He doesn't really care for them. He doesn't know like the way this man's treating me. He's not being a great, person in my life. And so he left me that day. I had to hear the baby's heartbeat stop like by myself. He came to my bedside and was like with one of his homeboys and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the homeboy's house. We're gonna go have a few beers. I'll be back." I was in ICU,
Yeah.
and when
Yeah.
he left, um, so these are things I'm mentioning that because these are things, Jojo, that like in the back of my head, there was another hurt, like another emotional blow,
Mhm.
when I got pregnant from that little boy,
Yeah.
my first son, his dad told me to have an abortion, like, "We're not ready to be mom and dad, like, have an abortion." That was like the first emotional blow, and I don't tell people about it. And now I'm in giving about to give birth I'm losing my this baby. I'm in intensive care, and dude walks away from me to go like party with his homeboys, you know?
Mm,
And and I what do? You accept
yeah.
it, you know? And so now here comes this little girl. Um my daughter then, about a year or so later, I give birth to, I get pregnant and I give birth to my daughter, and I'm already I'm already like emotionally like I have trauma,
Damage.
I have
Mm,
damage, dude's cheating on me all the time. This dude is like cheating on me like all over the place, and every opportunity he got. And I was a faithful woman,
mhm.
so it was like crazy. So now I'm fighting, now I'm beating up girls. I find him at a bar with some girl, and I'm
Going off.
big time.
Mhm.
I'm doing what I do. I'm drinking, I'm using, and now I'm like beating, beating girls up in bars behind this guy
Yeah.
and calling my homeboys to beat him up.
Mm,
That's what I would do.
wow. So now your daughter's getting older. What? How? I mean.
We go to the park. Rivera Park is such a big, plays a big part. So like we have like opening day every year for baseball, and there's like
Mhm.
everybody from the neighborhoods there. Like everybody's there. It's like my daughter. I have pictures with my daughter with like some of the homeboys. One of the guys like was they were tagging one day and they're writing stuff on the wall and they write her name out on the wall.
Mhm.
Like I raised my family. That's what I did. Like that's what my dad did. My dad raised me around a lot of these families. These families aren't gang members. Like
Mhm.
this is my family. I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
So yeah, we I'm being a bad mom, man. I'm already using um cocaine now. Is probably like by the 8 ball. I'm buying 8 balls of cocaine.
So did that take over your addiction more than the alcohol?
Absolutely. It always I have never in my addiction, I drink and I use. I don't drink without using and I don't use without drinking.
Mm, okay.
So as soon as I drink
You use.
anything, as soon as yeah, because I want that balance. Um, I would see girls all stupid drunk, like in the bars, like dudes completely taking advantage of them, like all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, that ain't gonna be me. And in my eyes, like the drug was the perfect balance. And so that's what I did.
Mhm.
That's what I did.
Okay. So, man, Marianne, I mean, you've been through a lot so far in this story, and I know, there's still a lot of, heavy stuff, if you're going to go there, you know what I'm saying? So, it's up to you what you want to continue to share, okay? And I know, it's totally up to you. All right? I'm right here with you, sis.
Okay.
I'm here with you. You know what I mean? And at any given time, we could wrap it up when we're done because you already, not yet though, because I want you to definitely share that moment of where you just cried out to the Lord and
Yeah.
life changes. But
So let me tell you, at the age of 13, I accepted the Lord and my grandmother. So as well as I have cousins from gangs, different gangs, mind you,
mhm,
on both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. And I have faith believers, Christians that have been serving the Lord since I was a little girl. And one of those ladies led me to the Lord in my grandma May's garage. I was about 12 or 13 years old,
mhm,
but I didn't see that lifestyle modeled. I was raised Catholic, so we went to church once in a while. But I didn't see like that relationship. So I go on and I have 6 children. I have 2 boys that I put up for adoption. Both of those boys were conceived in complete chaos by like one night stands.
mhm,
And because early on, I had an abortion, I didn't want to continue making those choices. So I gave birth to 6 children total.
and you had two twins. The boys were twins.
No,
Oh,
2 boys. I had my
Oh,
oldest son,
okay.
Richard, and then I have my daughter, Frankie, and then I have one of the boys that I gave up for adoption, Will, and then I had my son, Will, and then I had another little boy after, and my first son was born in '87 and my last child in '97, and so, after my daughter, I continued to be able to, like, stay clean, and, at the end of my those 2 boys, the 2 babies that I put up for adoption, I was so lost, Jojo. I was so lost. Um, Constantly I have never been in a relationship where somebody didn't cheat. I got married to my kids, my 3 kids, I got married to their dad, um, and it was a horrible marriage. We were young, but there was a lot of cheating that he did, and so wound up divorcing. Now I have, my 3 kids, and I was just a single mom after that for a long time. Um, and then, um, I'm just out there, living that life, like, just completely just drug addicted and raising my kids in all this craziness, and always having active gang members around. It was just normal, and, leaving the kids, I would at one point, I remember, I had to go score something, go pick up some dope, and
Mhm.
I was homeless at the time, but at the time, people didn't call it homeless. I was living at a motel, and, my I gave my daughters something to drink. We had, like, Boone's Farm wine, and I needed to run down the street, so I wanted them to fall asleep. I mean, I was horrible. Um, Eventually, my daughter, um I start to get clean in '95.
Mhm.
I go to my first recovery home in '95, and, it's out in LA, and it's a program called Dare You to Care. It's a 12-month program. So I wound up starting to wind up in the hospital,
Mhm.
OD, a couple times. My dad comes to the hospital and he's like, "What's going on?" And I don't know if it's just parents' love that they don't wanna really, like, know and see that,
Mhm.
like, my daughter's, an addict or what,
Yeah.
but he's like, "You could stop," like, "I was able to stop and you could stop," and, I couldn't, and so I have this aunt on my mom's side of the family. Shout out to my aunt Gilda. She has always been like a spiritual mom when I
Mhm.
was going through stuff. So I reached out to her and she came to me in the hospital and she's like, I got a program. I found this program. It's faith based. It's out in LA. It's brand new, and the founder of that program just passed away this year. I just went to her funeral.
Mhm.
Mrs. Ruth Hamilton. I love that lady. And she just went home to be with the Lord recently. But Dairy to Care was her program. And I went to that program. I got there, I did an interview. I was the only Hispanic girl there. And I think that there was a lot of reasons for me not to stay. I got there and I remember like I think it's gonna be 30, 60, 90 days type
Mhm.
of stuff. Like, this is a year commitment, and I did that year, and I feel like that got me a lot of foundation in the Word of God and going to church, and learning about my Lord and Savior, so but what happens, I leave that program and I go right back to my old apartment. My
Mhm.
cousins were living there, like, holding down the fort until I get back, and so I go right back, and about I stood clean for, like, a year, so I keep getting going to programs. I get clean for a little while. I could pop into church, you know. I somewhere like down the line, I know that I knew that God was the answer. I knew that He was the answer, but that pull of life was just too strong.
Mhm.
And that's all I knew. And those are the people that I would run back to. Like whenever something would happen and heartbreak or dude was acting
That
up,
was your
like,
comfort
yeah,
zone.
I'd go right back into that neighborhood, find somebody there and like, "Hey, what's up?" And no matter how much time I had, if I had 6 months clean. I had this thing about me that I always wanted to, like, help other people get clean. So, like, I would have, like, 6 months, 9 months, and I'm thinking I'm gonna influence them, like, I got a S on my chest like Superman, And I go in and I'm thinking I'm gonna help some of these people, but I would always get right sucked right back in, you know?
Mm, okay. So, all right. So you go in, you get clean and sober at times, and then you find yourself, right back in your addiction. And um, so when in the course of your life did you, finally really like have that moment of clarity where you're like, you know what, I'm done. Like I'm done. I'm going to pursue a career. I'm going to get a good relationship. When did that?
So, um, when I leave, I go into a program in 2000 called Foley House, and I meet all kinds of amazing people from Narcotics Anonymous, you know? Narcotics Anonymous plays a big, huge part in my life, and, it's for the first time that I met people that were, like, living life, like, that were clean, that were, like, still having fun, that, like, loved me and just wanted to see me stay clean, like, men and women I met, like, I have, like, this crazy group of friends that I met and just, like, actually met in recovery, in the recovery house, Foley House. I met
Mhm,
a couple of the ladies, sh shout out to Tracy Ann and Lynn. They were my best friends. They were, Tracy Ann wasn't my best friend in the beginning, it's so funny, but, Lynn worked at the program, and she was a friend of mine.
mhm,
We used to party together, back in the day, so I wanna get clean, she works at this program, and I go, and that's where I meet my friend Tracy Ann, and, um, the whole world of Narcotics Anonymous opens up to me, and, I leave that program, and, I would always go I just would relapse. I would stay well good for a little
mhm,
while, but I finally go to a program, and I go to Long Beach, and I'm have all my kids my daughter's, like, middle school now, Frankie, and, my son's with my mom and dad, and I have the all 3 of my kids with me, the younger ones, and I do really good in Narcotics Anonymous. I start working for a program, um, called Job Corps.
mhm,
They have a program in Long Beach, and I start working. It's kinda like you get stipend. I meet other ladies in Narcotics Anonymous, and they're just like I always have had this favor where people are like, "Come, like, let us
mhm,
help you," you know?
mhm,
And I start, doing really good. I start doing good. I decide at this point, like, I wanna get into the medical field, and, so eventually, I start schooling for medical assistant, but, a couple of things happen. I moved back home, and, I'm in Long Beach, I'm doing really good there, but my kids are getting older, and I need help. I wanna go to work, and I wanna be working, like, full time, but I don't have babysitters, my
mhm,
parents live in Pico still, so, I moved back to Pico Rivera, and, this was around 2006, I believe it is, and so my daughter's about to go to high school. So summer right before she's going to be a freshman, and she's going to summer school because she wants to try out for the basketball team.
mhm.
My son was a varsity basketball player at a Rancho, and that was her big brother and her
A role
everything.
model, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So she wants to go and try out for the basketball team, and she jumps in a car that day with a young man that I am assume that she had, like, a little crush on or something and jumps in the car with her. She jumps in the car with him and a few other boys, and they go to Smith Park, and she winds up becoming the victim of a violent crime that day. She was gang raped in the park in broad daylight, and, she was 13 years old.
Mhm,
So this is the beginning of that, like, crazy, rude awakening, like, um I'd never been through something so traumatizing in my life, And, I was sober at the time. I was, like, 5 years clean and sober. I had been, like, working the program on Narcotics Anonymous. I had a sponsor, and I'm working with, helping, like, taking commitments. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing to stay clean. I have a job. Um, I meet a guy. that's clean and has a good job, and we start to we start a relationship. And um I'm at work one day and they call me. My mom calls me crying, and she said, "You got to come home from work. Something happened to Frankie."
Man,
So
that's a tough one.
that was crazy. It was a crazy moment. I feel like God gave me the strength to get through that.
Mhm.
And I was able to, like, I didn't want to get loaded, but I wanted to hurt people, and it was like in the city of Pico. So it was like I knew some of these people's parents, like the young boys. It was just a lot. It was the first craziness that I went through with my daughter. And so we go to court, we get through that. And I'm basically at this point shoving everything under the rug. I told you, like, every time I had a real crazy event in my life,
Mhm.
I'm not talking to people about, like, I can't talk to my mom and
Yeah.
dad. Like, they're not, they weren't those, they would have not, like, they weren't just somebody that I can just go and talk to.
Mhm.
Um, I'm the oldest sister. So I don't have like a big sister type of.
Mhm.
And so I'm stuffing all these emotions and feelings like throughout my life. Like I can pinpoint a lot of things that I feel like I just swept things under the rug,
Mhm.
and I try to act like everything was okay. And this was one of those big moments with my daughter. And about a year later, not from the rape, but she becomes pregnant. And I looked into her eyes and I told her that she had to have an abortion. She was um she was 13 years old, about to be 14, and I was like, "You cannot have this baby."
Mhm.
And because we had been in and out of church so much, in and out, I'd go to church, I'd be at church for, months or, for a while, and then somebody would always just like I'd find a reason to leave. I'd find somebody, I said like somebody betrayed my trust, or somebody, I don't know. I just wasn't ready, Jojo.
Mhm.
I wasn't. And I
Mhm.
would leave. But because my daughter had enough of that God in her, and she looked me in the face and said, "Mom, I don't believe in abortion."
Mhm.
And she went on and had that little baby, a little boy. This was 2006. She has a beautiful little boy, and she did really good with him for about 18 months. And one day I woke up. She was part of a teen parent program at her school. We were living in Paramount at the time,
Mhm.
Bellflower, Paramount. She was going to Paramount High School, and we. I wake up one morning and she's gone, and there's the baby just laying in the crib. It was a really good baby, so he wasn't even crying. He was just, I wake up, I go into the room, and she's not there, and there's the baby. And so I had to call out of work that day, and I had to make some arrangements over the next few days and find a babysitter. But it was the beginning of like the end. My daughter never recovered from that. Um, she went on to, she ran right back to that neighborhood.
Mhm.
She went straight to that neighborhood. You know, um, that life became her. That whole life, that was her world. She just jumped into that world and she lived that life.
Mhm.
She was just completely consumed by that neighborhood life.
Yeah. That's a lot. You talk about PTSD, you talk about, nightmares and everything that would come with, that event of, you know, that she was a victim of. And, we talk about why we run to drugs and alcohol, to numb that pain and to, stop the nightmares and stop the PTSD and all the other stuff, and, I mean, in a sense, it's like we mean, from my personal perspective, it's like I don't blame her, what I mean, for it's just crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like just seeking anything but being in her own head,
Right.
That it's I mean, I can't even imagine Marianne, to tell you the truth, what what was going on with her, you know. So yeah, man, I'm so sorry, to hear that, but you know, that's one of the things we question, why God, why, and it's like we may never know why.
Yeah. So my daughter um is just completely consumed by the neighborhood. And now I decide that after 5 years of being clean, that if I couldn't beat him, I'm gonna join him. My best thinking told me that I should a drink wouldn't hurt. Um Now I don't want her out on the street running around because she still wants to go here. Now that she's with all the homeboys, so she's going here, she's going there. And I'm thinking like I don't want nothing worse to happen to you. So I let her I'm living in Whittier now, and I let her I let her start to drink at my house, and I'm sober. I let her start to drink at my house, and I know she wants to smoke. I know she's getting high, and I let her get high in my garage. I'm like, I don't want her in my house, but And one day I'm sitting there, and I had gotten married, my second marriage. I had gotten married, and I'm sitting there, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go. He would have a beer every once in a while, and he knows that I'm sober. But that day I was just like, hey, go get me something to drink. And he didn't think nothing of it and got me something to drink. And the next thing you know, I was had some dope, you know, and now we're, getting high. And I'm letting my daughter get high in the bathroom, in the house. Eventually we just start getting loaded together, the baby's with us. I have her son. So in the beginning I'm like chasing around because I want her to be a good mom.
Mhm.
And I want her to wake up, and I want her to do right by her son. And now eventually, I always say like we both knew better at this point, and we were both starting to now we're using together. So it was just a horrible thing. My daughter never recovered from that.
Mhm.
I believe um that she continued to try to find love, people, somebody that, loved her. They say it's like a syndrome, something that happens when somebody goes through a traumatic event like that, and they're raped. That, like, it's almost like now you're going to like give that, like, somebody took it from you, so now you're going to choose to give it like to whoever you want. Or I don't know. She went through a lot, Jojo. She was
Mhm.
running the streets. She was out of control.
Yeah.
She wasn't doing well at all. And mine, I'm at home with her son, and I have this man in my life that I thought was a solid man. And I don't say anything to disrespect anybody. I would never disrespect, but that man, my second husband, he did me really wrong, and he wound up cheating on me, and um, yeah, he cheated on me, and that was just like my daughter's out there running amok. This man now is with somebody very close to me, so like he did me very dirty. And I'm a mess. Like I'm trying to help my daughter. Trying to take care of my grandson. This man messes up and betrays me, and I'm done. So I'm like, all I wanted to do was numb and make everything go away. I get evicted, I throw him out, and I'm evicted, and I'm thank God, like, my sister lets me come stay on her couch, and my sister lives in Whittier at the time, and so the kids could still go to school. And by this time, my second son, my youngest son, he's living with his dad, and my oldest son, he's on his own, and it's just me and my daughter, my baby, Lulu, and, my grandson, and we're staying at my sister's, and we're sleeping on a couch, and I enrolled my grandson in kindergarten. By this time, I'm like, I'm doing horrible. Like I used to pride myself because I never went to jail and I did get my kids taken away and I didn't stick a needle in my arm, you know? But by now, um, I was snorting anything that I was doing. I was just snorting it. And now I'm smoking it. No, now I'm smoking meth every single day. You know, I surround myself with people that that's what they're doing, you know. Anybody that I'm involved with um is smoking dope. And it's horrible at this time. Like December 18th, 2011, I was waiting for um my second husband had cheated on me, right? And so I had another him that I was, you know, was very, very I felt like I was in love with him at the time, you know. I
Mhm.
really did. And so things are going crazy and I'm wanting to get in touch with him and I'm getting ready. I'm at my sister's, I'm getting ready and I think he calls me or he gets I think at that time it was pagers, I don't remember. But reaches out to me and I'm ready to like go see him and um the phone rings and I think it's him telling me that he's going to pick me up and it's my first husband, my daughter's dad, and he says, "You got to get to the hospital. Frankie's been shot." And so I'm not driving. I don't have a car at this time. My friend's there with us, so we're partying. And I remember that morning or that afternoon, I walked where my sister's apartments are. There's a liquor store on the corner. Of course, there is, right? There's a liquor store in the corner, and I walk over there. And by this time, I'm smoking methamphetamine every single day, and I'm drinking, vodka UV Blue straight.
Mhm.
And so, I go get this bottle of liquor, and I come home back to my sister's, and I put the vodka in the freezer, and I'm like, "I'm done." And so I grab this bottle, and I go to my sister's bedroom, and I go, "This is the last bottle that I'm buying. I gotta get clean again," you know? And I go back to the freezer, and I put it in. And then I get a call from this guy. Now I'm all excited. I want to go see him and I'm getting ready. And next thing I know, the phone rings and I think that it's him and it's my kid's dad. And now I'm on the way. First thing I did before I went to the hospital was I ran to that refrigerator before they took me and I took two big shots of that vodka and I get to the hospital and my daughter was shot with a shotgun and so she had from her shoulder to her leg she had 10 fragments in her and when I got to the hospital, they wouldn't let us inside the hospital to begin with because they said that it was gang related and they wouldn't let us in. So we had to prove who we were,
Mhm.
and then they took us up to a floor, which I never been through anything like this. So I'm like, I have no idea what's coming, and so they tell me a little doctor comes in. Little when I say she was a doctor, she just a little doctor. She came in and she said, your daughter never had a chance. Your daughter didn't make it, and she never had a chance. She had 10, I don't know if they call them bullets, but 10,
Mhm.
fragments in her. Um, and so I chose not to go see my daughter in the morgue that day. And I left the hospital with him and I went straight to our friend's house and continued to get high, try to make it go away.
Mhm. Wow. That's tough. That's very tough right there, Marianne. I mean, yeah, man. So from there, from the hospital, you go back, you start drinking, you bury your daughter, and then, how do you end up coping with this? What ends up happening?
I lived to Vegas. I have a cousin that lives in Vegas and her husband literally came and swooped me up and they got me an apartment in in Nevada. I go out there. I take my daughter and my grandson with me, and I go with good intentions because I want to start like a new life. The fact the way everything happened with my daughter happened, it was ugly, Jojo. Like I remember being in the market, and I remember being in the market. I remember like somebody would like look at me into my eyes, and I would be like what, like, what do you know? Like, people. I felt like people would like look at me in a certain way. Like it was ugly. And so what my cousin came around and said was like, "Hey, come out here. We have an apartment available upstairs. We're gonna get the apartment. We're gonna pay the first month's rent, and we can get you going on. Um, they have state aid there too until you get a job, whatever. And I went with good intentions, and I was there for 30 days. I plugged into NA right away. I got a meeting. I found a meeting, found a sponsor. Um, I had met a lot of good people out there, and 31 days. On 31 days, I was got on the bus to go. Man, Jerry, I'm in the heart of. I live right off the strip. My apartment's right off the strip, and I go to this meeting. I'm gonna go to my meeting to get my 30-day chip, and I'm like super excited about it. I get on the bus. By this time, within that 30 days, like my daughter had started to go to school out there, and she'd met some friends, and there was a little boy that was like out there. He was from Cali, he was from Pico, and or Whittier, and he wind up moving out there. So my daughter knows somebody,
Mhm.
and it was kind of like, and he was now for out here, he was kind of a little casual dude. Now he's out there, and he's like little gangster.
Mm.
And so I meet some people out there. But I'm on my way to the meeting to get my chip, and I'm on the bus, and I go over this hill, and as soon as I'm coming down the hill, I looked over and there's like a Rite Aid or CVS or something right there, and I just got off the bus, walked straight into that liquor store, and bought something to drink. And I don't remember if I called those people or what I did, but it wasn't too long after that that I had some dope.
Mhm.
And it was on again one more time. And I stood out in Nevada for 8 months. And one day, I'm walking to the refrigerator to get something to drink, my bottle of vodka. And my grandson used to call me Nana back then. And he's like, Nana, I'm hungry. And I'm literally like grabbing for my bottle. And I remember looking down at him. And when I looked down at him, I heard something say, "You're doing it all over again." And I thought it was like it was audible. That's what it sounded like. I'm like, "What? Like, what was that?" It was so weird.
Mhm.
And I don't remember. I must have put the bottle back down, but I called some people in LA, California, back in Long Beach. I had a sponsor in Long Beach at one point when I was living out there and doing good. And I called those ladies out there. Um, Shout out to Christina Lyon and Adelina Leo. They were amazing women, and they were really involved in the AA program, right? So they go and they are like, they send for me. I want to come back home. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. By the way, I'd already Pastor Brian. I
Mhm.
had met Pastor Brian at a church before my daughter died. And it was crazy when I first met him because he got up to preach, and it was just something like about his teaching, the way
Mhm.
he taught, you know, very, very clear. Like, felt like he brought the Bible to life.
Mhm.
It was like super, like, it resonated in my spirit.
Mhm.
So I meet him. He winds up doing my daughter's funeral, you
Mhm.
know? So now I messed up. I want to come back home, and it's because Pastor Brian would send emails about news to Young Men Arise and what's going
Yeah.
on in his ministry, and he says like there's going to be a church opening up. And I'm like, I would come home on the weekends. I was up there for 8 months, but I would come home on the weekends sometimes,
Yeah.
and I would get off the bus, and
Mhm.
immediately people would pick me up, and we'd get high and party. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get over there, and who am I going to hang out with? Because I want to go to this grand opening of the church.
Yeah.
And so I call my old sponsor, and they pay some money for me to bring like a lot of my luggage and stuff home
Mhm.
on my bus. I get to stay in her sober living. And I remember praying to God, when that little boy, when I heard that voice say, "You're doing it all
Amen.
over again,"
Mhm.
um, I remember praying to God, and I remember thinking like, "Where am I gonna go? Like, who's gonna take me in?" And I need I need support. Like, I know I don't have godly men and women in my life. Like, I had NA people in my life that were
Mhm.
staying clean, which was that was great,
Yeah.
and that's who I fell back on. They were there for me one more time when I got back to LA, so I went back to LA, and, I was able to attend the Chapel of Change grand opening, and I rededicated my life that day, day 1.
Let's give him one real quick. Yeah, that deserves little applause right there, 'cause that's an awesome beginning, though. I mean, man, I was excited for Chapel Change too. For you that don't know Chapel Change, the lead pastor, the senior pastor is Brian Worth, a good friend of mine. Shout out to him and
Yes.
man, thank him, and what he's doing and for giving you a place to start to heal.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that since that, since the grand opening of Chapel of Change, I cannot even tell you how many times, different places, different things, I started to just work on myself and let God heal me, you know? It's been, surrender, um, surrender to win. It's
Mhm.
like I never thought it was life could be like I would always like half step God every once in a while. I would even say that, I would play with with the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Like I would go get clean, but I had people's phone numbers in my phone still that, like this was a surrender and it took me losing my daughter Jojo. You know, we would try to get clean together. When she started going to camp, she started going to juvenile hall and camp, and she would wind up eventually make it to, to Linwood Station and or to jail and she would write me all the time and she would write me and tell me to stay clean. Mom, stay clean. Keep going to meetings, mom. Um, keep going to church, mom.
Mhm.
Was when I get home so we can do it together. And she would get out and we would try it and it would always like we do a few days. We do good for a quick minute and then it would be one of us would mess up. And so she passes away and she's 20 years old. And we used to always talk about the day she turned 21.
Mhm.
And we are gonna do this and we were gonna do that. And she's she would always say she was gonna get her ID and she was gonna put like lights around it. She was gonna wear it around her neck, like 21, like she was legal and all this stuff, right? Um, so she passes at 20 and I moved back to LA and it's right before her birthday. It's the month of September, and we serve a God that's very strategic in how he does things.
Mhm.
And so for her 21st birthday, I was so devastated. I was thinking like, what am I going to do and how am I going to do this and what are we going to do, to honor her life, right?
Yeah.
And and that's when I remembered like you're going to go to her grave and you're going to be clean. So I got home to LA, which that was part of the agreement with the lady that brought me. Like,
Mhm.
she was a sponsor for me at one point.
Yeah.
So I jumped back into NA and I go get my little newcomer chip. And on her 21st birthday, I got to walk to her grave, Jojo, and give her my chip. And you know that every single year that I celebrate, September 12th, 2000 and September 17th, 2012 is my clean date.
All right, all right.
September 17th. 2012, I got clean, and every year I go to her graveside and I take her a chip and I pick up that little thing where the flowers go. I pick it up and I put it into the dirt, and that's how I honor her life. We couldn't stay clean together, but now we're clean together. She's in
Yeah.
heaven,
Yeah.
and she's
With no more pain.
with no more pain. Yeah,
Yeah. Like we said, we don't understand, the different courses of our lives, and the different paths and the different tragedies that take place, but God's not taken by surprise by these horrible things.
right.
And I know so many people blame God and why God, why did you allow this to happen? And I thought you were a loving God, a good God. And as born again saints now, we know who the murderer is. We
Yep.
know, that lying devil is, his
Yep.
job is to kill, steal, and destroy,
That's
what
right.
I mean? Um, but thank God that we have that ultimate promise that God promises, a new heaven,
Hmm.
eternal life in his presence, and that gives us hope as believers.
Yes.
Marianne, man, I mean, your story is so amazing, so amazing. It's filled with so much hurt, and like I said when we started, I believe your story will give hope to that broken mother, that daughter that feels like, there's no way out, that they're stuck and they're trapped, and they may be one of them ones that continue to relapse as well and think like this is just my story. I'm gonna
Right.
die. What's the saying? I'm gonna die a hope to die dope thing. You know
Right.
what I mean? And but that's a lie though.
It is a lie.
You don't have to die a dope thing.
That's right.
You know, people do recover.
Yes, they do.
And we do clean up good. And we do have a new start, a rebirth.
Hmm.
A regeneration.
That's
You
right.
know, so I don't wanna rush through your story because I know, there's still so much more, so, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new husband, about your career, what you're doing today, you know, um and by the way, she's mentioning Chapel of Change, she's mentioning all this recovery, the 12 steps. You helped bring, Celebrating Recovery into Chapel of Change, correct?
Yes, we did that. We
And for
did.
yous that don't know, that's a 12-step, Christian faith-based,
Right.
program.
Yep. 12 place, faith-based 12 step.
Yeah,
Celebrate
that
recovery.
is awesome,
Yes.
that is awesome. So
Yeah,
y
life is different today. I spend my life, uh, my calling is to be able to pour into women. It could be women and men. Today, it's my husband and I, but for a long time, I'm a newlywed. Shout out to my husband.
yes, shout
Um,
out.
I love that man. It's life is so different. My kids are all grown. I have that little boy, Jaden. He's my grandson.
That's your pride and joy. Say my pride and joy, because that little boy is your pride and joy.
You know, he is calls me mom. I had a problem in the very beginning. It was like a very heart-wrenching moment
Mhm,
for him to be able to call me mom. I never wanted him to forget. I never wanted him to forget who his mom is.
mhm.
But I felt like at one point God is like he deserves an earthly mom. And so I you know I told you that I thought that little boy. I told my daughter to have an abortion.
Mhm,
So say the enemy would have had his way and my daughter would have like when this happened, Jojo, the only thing that kept me going was this little boy. Um, I would lay down with him at night and after she passed, I told God that I would never let him know that lifestyle that his mom was so deeply in and we were in. And I would never let him know that lifestyle and that I would stay clean, that
yeah.
I would raise him right. And at that time I felt like, my daughter was 15 when my daughter was murdered and my boys were older and I felt like they're gonna be okay. Like I wanted to end my life.
Mhm,
I felt like I had such a huge part in my daughter's life and her choices and her lifestyle. That's what I showed her, and she just tried to be like me. Um, and so I felt like so many times I wanted to take my life. But that little boy, I would look down at him and he'd fall asleep, and I would look at him, and I knew that I wanted to honor her life, my daughter's life, by doing right by him. So I started I started doing everything that I could. I got involved with Celebrate Recovery and became a ministry leader at my church.
amen.
Me and a gentleman named Howard at the time, we were leading it. And God has definitely taken me from glory to glory. People started reaching out to me and asking me to come give my testimony and different places, different churches. Like people would contact me and I didn't even know who they were. one day, a gentleman, named Sal Rodriguez, he's from the group War.
Mhm.
He's the drummer.
Drummer, yeah.
Yeah. He called me one day and he was like, "Hey, I don't know if actually a pastor called me and said, "There's a gentleman asking for you. Um, his name's Sal Rodriguez." I'm not really good with names, but
Mhm,
I know like music, I knew who
mhm.
War was. Of course, everybody
Yeah.
knows War. But he started reaching out to me, started inviting me to come out and give my testimony, at a program called CPR that he has out in the valley. And so little but little, man, God is constantly. I've gotten to go into juvenile halls and give my testimony, and I've gone into prisons, and somebody called me one day and said, "Hey, Maryann, will you bring Celebrate Recovery to the women's Chino prison?" And I was going in there for a little while with a friend of mine,
Mhm,
Salida
mhm.
from Narcotics Anonymous. Shout out to Salida. She just like called me one day and like, "Hey, why don't you come teach the women about Celebrate Recovery?" And um, that's how God's been moving in my life, man. And
Amen.
one day, uh, it was I was 9 years of being out of a relationship
Mhm.
and serving and being a mom, being a grandma. My children are now, they started having their babies and life just got so good and so busy,
Amen,
right? And
amen.
then here comes this man that stole my heart. And you know, this man did a lot of time in prison and 41 years, Jojo.
Oh, 41
And
years.
you would never know. This guy, when we talk about faith, and you gotta have faith, like, he said that God had given him he knew about 10 years ago. So he had already been gone. He was already down for like 30 years when
Mm,
he completely surrendered to God. He said he had a couple of COs inside prison that would talk to him about God,
mhm.
and God did a work on him. I truly believe that's why he set him free. I feel
Amen,
like it was going to take a
amen,
strong man like this guy
amen.
to be able to deal with somebody.
Yeah.
I'm a tough cookie, Jojo.
Oh, I can tell.
I had to be.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
now, one of my prayers, on a personal note, one of my prayers right now is just God to bring me some meekness and humbleness because
Mhm,
I've kind of like I've kind of like been that hard fist. I was a single mom for a long time, so
mhm.
I had to like take care of these kids and lay down the law and
Yeah.
keep them in line, kind of, when especially after I got clean, it was like a lot of damage. I did a lot of damage, Jojo, to my kids, and
Yeah.
they're all on their own journey right now.
Mhm.
Um, right now they've all gone to church. My youngest son was baptized a few years ago at Chapel Change. My boys and my daughter, they pop in, but right now my daughter, like, God's really working in my daughter's life, and
Amen.
she's at church
Hallelujah.
quite often. Um, and God's moving. That little
Amen.
boy, he's the varsity. He plays varsity basketball,
Oh,
football,
yeah, I
basketball.
follow him. I see him. I see him. Shout out to Garfield, varsity.
Garfield Bulldog. Yes,
Yeah,
I should have worn my
basketball. He
Bulldog
plays
shirt.
basketball, football. He's an all around athlete, huh?
Yeah, basketball, football, and then basketball. And I asked coach if he can give him a week off because they just went CIF. They went to state
Yeah.
with basketball, and so he's already on the late break, but he's gonna jump into baseball.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. And something that you didn't mention, and for you that been, with us the last, hour plus, you heard all the traumatic experiences that, this beautiful young lady has been through and experienced, in her addiction and that crazy, ghetto lifestyle and just all the tragedies that she's faced and what the devil meant for evil. I mean, it's obvious that
come on,
God definitely meant for good. God has definitely turned it around for good. And what you didn't hear yet is that she now works in the mental health department. And you would think that with all that stuff, that she would be crazy out of her mind somewhere in a Salem, not being able to do anything. And
right,
here she is. This is how good the Lord has been to her. The Lord has definitely restored her brain in order to help other people that are suffering, in that aspect of life, man. I mean, that's how good God has been. And it's, yeah, like I was man, it's so hard to understand why,
Right.
Marianne, why?
Right.
Why all of this just to get us to where we're now instruments for God? And it's like, I know you're very humble. I know you're very, gracious and just an attitude of gratitude. And, I've seen it, hearing you speak and your passion, to help not just young ladies, but just people of pain,
Yeah.
And something you guys didn't know as well though is that her daughter's murder is it's never been solved, you know what I mean? And that's something to that's something hard to live with, but I believe God's given you a peace in that regards. And you know what? We're still praying for justice, you know what I mean? We want mercy on the person or people
Yes.
that did this, but we want justice. You know what I mean? We're very firm believers that you know what? It's through justice that people, do come to salvation.
Yes.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? I mean, I know for myself and for your pastor, Brian, that's where we found, God's grace and his mercy,
Yes.
was through his justice system. You know
Right.
what I mean? We had to. I mean, we're praying that you know what, wherever that guy, that girl, them girls, them guys, wherever you're at, you know what I mean? We pray for your salvation, you know what I'm saying? But and I could only imagine them living with pain and guilt and shame and everything else that they possibly can have right now. And we pray. I mean, I pray that that will lead them, you know what I mean, to either turn themselves in or surrender to God and let God work out whatever needs to be done.
I want you to know that I've totally forgiven the people that hurt my daughter in the park that day when she was 13 years old. And raped her. And I also want you to know that I have forgiven the young man that murdered my daughter. And I pray that one day God will allow me to tell him to his face that maybe God would even let me pray for him. I pray that I would be able to lead that young man into a prayer of salvation, because God has strengthened me to the point where I will be able to do that today. I know
Amen.
that the devil is a liar and he was behind,
Amen.
this whole scene, this whole life that we've been leading, the devil has constantly deceived us in such a way, you and Brian are great examples of that, and how you guys changed your lives. Like your crime affected your whole life, and that's exactly what like my because I didn't go to jail, my lifestyle affected my whole life. My daughter walked down that road,
Yeah.
everything that happened, but we're all being deceived. We were
Mhm.
all being deceived when we were not brought into the truth from an early childhood. And
Yeah.
hey, my I had amazing parents. I know that you said you had amazing parents, but I didn't they didn't know the truth. The Bible says that you will know the truth and the truth will set
Set
you
you free.
free. And
Amen.
so all I know is that today I'm set free, Jojo.
Amen.
And it's so crazy
Amen.
because God calls upon me all the time. I have people from Facebook, I have people from Instagram, it doesn't matter, wherever they reach out to me. Sometimes it's their children,
Yeah.
their families, whoever it is. And I try. Not too long ago, my husband, we're driving, my husband goes, "Babe, I think you need business hours," because sometimes it's just like all the time. But hey,
Yeah.
and I tell my husband this, I was living that life 24/7 and I gave it everything that I had. And that's how I'm going to live for God. I got
Amen.
to give it everything that I have. I don't have time to
Yeah.
waste.
Amen.
And so I do whatever I can. And I want to tell you something that I'm very proud of before the podcast ends is that yes, I work for the Department of Mental Health and I'm a substance abuse counselor. And I get to do God's work and get paid. Like, that's how I feel about my job,
Amen. That's right.
I love it. Um, but just recently, on February 20th, which was my birthday, I received my badge from LA County Probation to be a volunteer chaplain.
Oh,
And
let's give that one up right there.
I can't wait. Oh my goodness. I
Not
can
just you, but your husband as
He's
well.
gonna be
Oh, he's
going
going
in.
to
He's gonna be going in.
soon.
Yeah, soon,
Okay.
soon. He'll be going
Okay.
in soon. That's our desire. That's our heart.
Yeah.
Um, I can't wait. When Pastor Brian talks about, he would tell his story, and I've told him this so many times. When I get to heaven, you know, a lot of people were like, "I want to meet so and so." There was a man that Pastor Brian says that stuck his hand
Oh, the
into the
chaplain, yeah,
yep, the
yep.
chaplain
Put his hands to the
that stuck
bars.
his hand through those bars, right? And Pastor Brian says that he reached into his darkness, right? At the darkest moment of his life. That was a chaplain, you know? I can't wait to meet that man. I want to hug that man because I feel like when he reached into those bars and touched Pastor Brian's hands, he had no idea. Look at that man's fruit. He had no idea what he was going to do. That result of his prayer and his boldness and his being able to go into the darkness, because chaplaincy inside of a jail setting, I believe that's a a very
Mhm.
hard calling.
Yeah,
And so that's my path, Jojo.
yeah.
I am honored to say that today I'm a volunteer chaplain. March 17th, my pastor is going to be saying a prayer for me at my church. So I'm inviting you and your beautiful wife. Maybe you guys can come out. It'll be on a Sunday, and they're going to say a prayer for me and install me as chaplain. And you know,
That is awesome.
yeah, I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
To think of, I'm honored. I don't know, man. Um, I feel like I finally found my niche, like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going traveling down this road and you get into leadership and it's like, I don't want to be a pastor. Like I'm not called to shepherd sheep like that. But
Yeah.
when you talk about a chaplain, it's like outside the walls, and that's where I belong,
That's
outside the
outside the
walls.
walls and behind the gates now,
Behind the
behind the
gates.
fences. Yeah.
I'm so excited, Jojo.
It's exciting. It's exciting because as I've done prison ministry, with youth and with adults, and it's very touching. I mean, and they're gonna know. They're gonna know right away your sincerity. Because whether you're going in, I believe you're going with the younger people at first.
Juvenile hall
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, what I mean? You're gonna be a mother figure to a lot of them that they never had, you know what I'm saying? And they're gonna be open to receive. And that's our prayers before we ever go in, that God, you touch them
Yes.
before we ever get there. And
Yes.
I'm praying for you. I'm down that same road. Remember, I told you I
Yes.
gotta get back in that system. So
Yep.
I said with you and Nacho and me, and we got some other brothers that are doing it as
Right.
well. That we all come from that background. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yep.
think we go back in there because we know that pain of being trapped. Like you said earlier, you
Yes.
were trapped in that
So
that
much.
lifestyle, you know what I mean? So, Marianne, thank you for coming on here, for being transparent about your addiction, about your daughter, about, just I mean, you done poured so much out here, you know what I'm saying? And before we wrap it up, I seen a couple of comments, people, throwing out their sobriety years and stuff, you know what I
Okay.
mean? And Anthony, if you don't mind, just go ahead and tap in the number. And for you guys that are still watching, and thank you guys. I know you guys have been blessed by this. And I know she probably has some friends that are watching too. If you guys would like to call in, the phone number to call in is 626-367-9275. Once again, that's 626-367-9275. And you'll see it in the chat. Yes, 367-9275. Uh, call in. You could ask her some questions. You could give her some words of encouragement, or maybe you're in a situation where you were like some feedback. You know what I mean? You got a licensed counselor right here. Yeah, so go ahead and we'll be here for a few minutes, waiting for you guys if you guys do. But Marianne, like I was saying, man, I am very blessed by your story. And like I told everybody in the beginning, I knew it was going to be real heart-wrenching because you have been through so much, you know what I mean? And it's not easy. It's not easy to, you know, come on live TV, live, podcast and just put it all out there. It's a lot, you know what I mean? And um yeah, I do appreciate you, and
You
I'm
know,
I'm excited. I'm excited for your husband
yeah.
though. Like for you guys that just tapped in or you guys been listening, her husband did multiple years, a lot of years, like 30 plus years, and he's out here saved and they're in ministry together. And man, that's a blessing, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Like and I know for you, it's probably hard because you shared. I mean, it's not a secret. You shared how so many other guys had hurt you and
Mhm.
betrayed you and backstabbed you, and just pretty much try to kill you verbally, you know what I'm saying? And just like, let me go ahead and take this call real quick. Hey, Big Lou, can you hear me? All right, hold on, bro. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. I forgot that I have to always do this when we get them calls in. Hold on. Don't hang up because it switches over. So when I do it, hold on 1 second, Lou. Hey, Big Lou, can you hear me? Hello? Louie, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Go ahead and you got the volume turned off on the background, right?
Yeah.
Turn off the volume on your TV, bro, so we could hear you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we could hear you. Go ahead.
Oh no, brother. I just want to thank you first and foremost for your platform there.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
Sis, that story is amazing. Uh, Words can't describe that. I mean, just what you've endured. So I want to thank you for finding the courage within yourself to share with us your story. Yeah, my wife is here in tears, and if I put her on the phone, she wouldn't be able to say anything because she would just be crying. So we want to thank you for that. As we do our work, we want to continue to encourage you to do your work
Thank you.
because it is bringing forth healing. So I just wanted to call in and say thank you. I know it took a lot, but continue. God has a lot of work in store for you, and we're here to support you.
Amen. I
So
receive that.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Jojo. Thank you, brother.
All right, bro. Thank you for calling in, man. Thank you for the support, bro. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, get with you soon.
All
Bye.
right. God bless. Yeah, that's a brother that he's out there right now working with the homeless population and
Mm,
also prison ministry too.
okay.
Him and his wife started a prison ministry. If you watched our first episode, he's the
Oh,
young
yeah.
yeah, that's the person
Oh,
that just called in.
nice. Yes.
Yeah, the one he shared about his story of his son.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's why he
Powerful.
could feel, from a parent's perspective, you know
Right.
what I mean, of
Yeah, the
going through some
loss.
things.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tragedy.
So
Jojo, I want to say really quick that I have part of my story out in a book. Um, I'm involved with a few ministries. One of them is Third Step Ministries, and they are Third Step is women. They reach out to women that are in addiction, and they put on a big event every year. They do things all year round, actually trying to help women that are in addiction. And so there's a book on Amazon. It's called From Addiction to Hope. I was gonna
okay.
bring the book. I had it here with me, but I left it at home.
Anthony, you got that Addiction to Hope
From
on
Addiction
Amazon?
to Hope on
Oh, From
Amazon.
Addiction to
From
Hope.
Addiction to Hope. The cool thing is this: you
Mhm.
buy the book,
Mhm.
and the book. Once you buy the book, the book is given. You buy a book, and another book is given free to an inmate or to somebody at a recovery home.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Nice.
it's and there's about 12 stories. Yvonne, sister Yvonne,
Connecting the dots.
yes, connecting the dots. As a matter of
Amen.
fact,
Yes.
shout out to Sister
Shout
Yvonne.
out to Sister
Yes,
Yvonne.
I'm really excited. I'm going to be getting involved with Sister Yvonne, and her connecting the dots book. I want to also highlight. I had her book too. I was like, I was going to give a little shout out to both. That's my next journey, Jojo, working on the trauma. I've been busy. God's healed me. He's done a lot in my life, but God has opened up the doors with Sister Yvonne, and
Oh, yeah, she's a blessing.
I
Sister
am
Yvonne
so
is a
excited
blessing.
to look. I'm looking forward to. I'm finishing a class right now, a chaplaincy class, and then I'm gonna jump into doing some work with Yvonne in her book and generational trauma. It's
Yeah.
real stuff in that
Yeah, it
book. I'm
is.
excited.
Yeah, that's another. I mean, she's another one. I've got to see her in action too, and man, oh my goodness, you talk about passion. She's
Yes.
hardcore too. She
Yeah.
don't look hardcore, but she is. She's hardcore. Yeah,
I
I
love
love
that
that
lady.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a good sister, man. Good
Looking
heart,
forward
good
to that.
passion. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's crazy though, man, because you're like in the circle of a lot of people that I know as well.
I know
From
that
your
was
pastor and
yeah.
Yvonne, and I think even my NA sister, Angelina, crazy Angelina, my Walden House sister.
Okay.
Yeah. She's. I always see her at different places where you're at as well. So I'm like, that
Okay.
girl goes everywhere, man. But yeah, shout out to all your, all your NA people and
Yes.
all your celebrating recovery people,
Yep.
all that stuff, man. And I personally want to thank you though, because we had a personal situation. We asked you for help, and without hesitation, without, I mean, I don't take that lightly, Marianne. And I'll thank you in front of everybody. When we needed help, with a family member that was, going through her own addiction and hardships, without even questioning, you're like, when, where, what's the address? I'm on it, and I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I love you in the Lord, and you're cool, and you could ask me for anything, I'd probably do it too. But sometimes when you're not in that immediate circle, it's like, oh, well, I got other stuff to do and whatnot. And I mean, you didn't hesitate, and I do appreciate that. Because yeah, I mean, the
Somebody did
that
it for me, you
yeah.
know? That's how you pay it forward.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
that's what I learned in recovery. It was freely given to me, and freely I give
absolutely.
back, you know what I mean? And one of our Walden House sayings, shout out to my family, my
There you
recovery
go.
family, Walden House, because we learned that when A helps B, A stays well,
Mhm.
and that's each one teach one,
Each
all
one
these
teach one.
these
Yeah.
things, you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
and I believe that, when I asked you, it was immediately you were like, let's do it, you know what I mean? And you did on two different occasions. We told you to meet us at a Denny's that was far
Yeah,
away from where you're at, and you showed up,
that's
and
right.
we actually showed up late for that meeting. And then again, you know what I mean? You were like, yeah, I'm ready to go, and I can't thank you enough, for that passion and helping us and whatnot. So
It's what I get to do today, you know?
yeah.
I'm honored to be able to help any way I can, and, I'll be ready when you guys call me again because 'cause we're gonna help her.
Yeah, we're still
We are
praying. We're not
going
gonna
to.
give up,
Nope,
we're not gonna
she's in
give
my
up, you know
prayers,
what I'm
and,
saying? And we're believing that God, in his perfect timing, is going to grab her by her neck and be like, okay, that's enough, but
yes.
for now, we'll continue to pray and whatnot. So later on, you'll be able to go back and watch the replay, because there was a lot of comments coming through and whatnot.
Oh,
Uh Dina, you know who that
yeah,
is?
that's Pastor Terry's wife.
Oh, okay. God has much in store for you, my sister. A real stand-up soldier for Christ.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Dina, you're more than welcome to call in real quick. We're about to
Oh, no, she won't call in,
she
she's
won't go.
very shy.
She's very shy. Well, we don't
Yeah,
see her face, so
I
she can still
know.
call.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, oh man, once again, I just wanted to thank you. Really wanted to thank you for sharing what you did. And before we close out, is there any last words that you would want to just to that hurt mom, to that daughter, to that sister, even the guys, man? I mean, you're touching all around, you know what I mean? If you don't mind just looking into this camera right there and just give them a quick, just a little quickie.
I feel like, God brings us to the end of the road, all of us, some way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, I had to lose my daughter in order to wake up. I pray that that is not what it takes for some of you out there. We get to the end of the road and sometimes it's pride and ego and we just don't want to reach out. But there's people that are waiting to help you. And first and foremost, if you cry out to God, He's the only one we need. You could be alone in the room right now and cry out to God, fall to your knees and ask Him. He died for our sins. He died just for you, whoever's watching this. There's some of you that don't even know God and don't have a relationship with Him, and that's okay. But He died for you, and He died for me, and that's the only thing that when everything else failed. Because when my daughter died, everybody failed me. People that I thought were going to be there to show up and be there and suit up, they weren't. And some people that I didn't know would be there showed up. But God stood by my side. The Bible says that He will never leave you and He will never forsake you. And I pray that if this has touched you in any way, that you would reach out to Brother Jojo, that you would know how to, if you're female, you can reach out to Jojo. He'll give you my number and I'd love to pray with you. And I'd love to just let you know that, there's a God in heaven that loves you. And we don't have to continue down that road. Like it's time. Sometimes we get to the point, it's time to hang it up. We don't know what to do. But there's brothers like Jojo and there's sisters like myself and many, many others that have trudging this road of recovery in one way, shape, or form. And man, it's just like put it down and reach out. Like don't sit alone in the room no more and hope that somebody's gonna come and help you, man. Just put it down, put down that pride, and then reach out. And there's people like us that just, that have been down that road. We didn't read it in a book. We've been there. We have life experience and we know where you're at. And we would just want to be there to help you to get out into those moms. Like, don't ever give up on your children, no matter what, no matter where they're at right now, don't stop praying for them and don't stop hoping for them. And sometimes we just have to lead by example. And that's what our kids are waiting for us to lead by example. So that's pretty much it, Jojo.
All right. All right. Some of the things that she was just saying right now just reminded me. I would like to offer you a free 5-step video on overcoming anger and frustration. In the comments right here, I'm gonna go ahead and put the link to my free video. All you got to
Nice.
do is just go there. It's 5 simple steps that I recorded for you to help you overcome. And one of the main ones that Sister Maryann was sharing right now is like, don't keep it a secret what you're
Mm-mm.
going through. You need to speak about it. You need to get it out there. I know in recovery, I always heard that, we're only as sick as our deepest secrets.
Yep.
And once you're able to put it out there, that's when the healing process happens. So check it out. It's right there in the live feed right now. You could go there. It's totally free. It's about it's like an 8-minute little video, 5 steps on overcoming anger and frustration, because in this world we're going to face that. I don't care
Right.
who you are. You're going to get angry, you're going to get frustrated, and I'm offering you the free video, 5 steps to overcoming that. All right.
Amen.
So with that being said, once again, thank you. God
Thank you.
bless you. Can't wait to see what the Lord has in store for you, because you still got a lot to do. You still got a lot to do for his business. So thank you, Marianne,
Thank
and
you.
and you're in our prayers, man. Your family.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Jojo.
So, anyways, for all of yous out there still viewing, man, don't forget like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my website at www.trapfamilies.com. We have a few different things on there that we offer to the families of the incarcerated and the addicted. So please be sure to check that out. Go under the program section. I do offer a free video chat for anybody that's thinking about how we could possibly help you during this time, during this this moment in your life, where, because I know, for one thing, being out here helping families, they feel like there's no help, there's nobody that understands them, there's no one that can offer them anything to help speed up this process. And I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers, you know what I'm saying? But like Marianne said, I've been there. I've put my family through it. And, for the last 20 years, I've been in the position to help families just understand this process.
Right.
If that's the least that I could offer somebody, is just some understanding to help them be able to cope with, the tragedy of their children, their loved one, being stuck in addiction or in incarceration, or even just that criminal lifestyle.
Right.
So if you fall into any of them categories, please be sure to reach out to me. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I got a TikTok account, Facebook. You could find me anywhere. There's no excuses. Just Google my name and it's gonna come up. So anyways, God bless you guys, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care. Done.